True doorbell camera footage, horror stories, YouTube-English. I woke up to an eerie silence, the kind that seems to press against your ears. The darkness was suffocating, like a shroud that concealed all familiar shapes. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand, the only source of light in the room. As the screen flickered to life, I saw a notification from the doorbell camera. My pulse quickened as I tapped it, and the image of a figure dressed in a tattered, haunting mask filled the screen. I could feel the weight of dread settling over me as I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my throat. The figure's stance was unnatural, frozen in a stance that was both unsettling and menacing. Its eyes, hidden behind the mask, seemed to bore into me, as if it could see through the camera lens and directly into my soul. My hand trembled as I read the words on the sign it held up. "Your deepest fears come to life." The words echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder that something truly sinister was at play. I tried to shake off the fear, to rationalize that it was just a prank, a sick joke. But then, I remembered that message from my wife, the one she left me on the night she disappeared. Her voice was laced with terror as she struggled to communicate, mentioning something about the masked figures. My heart raced as I rushed to the window, pulling back the curtains to peer outside. The street was deserted, cloaked in darkness. The wind whispered through the trees, creating an eerie melody that sent shivers down my spine. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned to face the window across the street. There, illuminated by the pale glow of a lamppost, stood the figure, its eyes locked onto mine. A guttural sense of unease twisted within me, a gnawing sensation that told me this was no ordinary encounter. The figure slowly raised its arm, the sign still in hand. The words had changed, now forming a chilling question: "What are you most afraid of?" A wave of panic washed over me as I stumbled back from the window, my mind racing through memories of my deepest fears. The figure seemed to know them, to feed off them, and that realization was enough to send me into a frenzy. I grabbed my phone and dialed the police, my voice trembling as I tried to explain the situation. But even as I spoke, I could see the figure inching closer, its movements like a macabre dance. It was no longer content to stay across the street. It wanted to get closer, to bridge the gap between its world and mine. The dispatcher's voice offered little comfort, and I knew that time was running out. I had to do something, had to protect myself from whatever malevolent force was at play. I rushed to the door, locking it and barricading it with anything I could find. But even as I did, I could hear the faint sound of scratching, like nails against wood. The figure was right outside, its presence a suffocating weight that pressed against the walls. As the minutes ticked by, the scratching grew louder, more insistent. My heart raced as I glanced around the room, searching for a way out. And then, I remembered the window, my only escape route. I rushed to it, throwing it open and preparing to climb out. But as I looked down, my heart sank. The figure was there, waiting for me, its masked face tilted upwards, eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. Desperation fueled my actions as I climbed onto the windowsill, my fingers gripping the edge. And then, I heard it, a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "What are you most afraid of?" With a surge of adrenaline, I pushed myself off the windowsill, plummeting to the ground below. The impact was jarring, pain radiating through my body as I struggled to my feet. I didn't look back, didn't dare to see if the figure had followed me. I ran, fueled by sheer terror, my feet pounding against the pavement. I didn't stop until I reached a crowded street, surrounded by the comforting glow of streetlights and the sounds of life. It was only then that I allowed myself to look back. The figure was nowhere to be seen, and a sense of relief washed over me. But deep down, I knew that the encounter had left its mark, that the chilling question it had posed would linger in my mind forever. As I walked away from that nightmarish experience, I couldn't shake the feeling that the world held more mysteries, more horrors, than I had ever dared to imagine. Days turned into nights, and nights into weeks, but the memory of that terrifying encounter never faded from my mind. It haunted my thoughts, lurking in the shadows of my consciousness, ready to resurface at the slightest trigger. I became obsessed, scouring the internet for any hint of information about the figure, the masks, and the inexplicable connection to my deepest fears. But all my efforts yielded little more than cryptic stories and urban legends, whispers of masked entities that fed off human fear, that reveled in tormenting their victims. Sleep eluded me as nightmares filled my nights, each one a twisted reflection of my fears made manifest. I saw the figure in every shadow, felt its presence even when I was alone. The lines between reality and paranoia blurred, and I found myself questioning my own sanity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I received an unexpected email. The sender's address was a jumble of characters, and the message contained only a single sentence: "They feed on what you can't escape." My heart raced as I stared at the screen, my mind racing to decipher the meaning behind those cryptic words. What was I unable to escape? The nightmares? The fear that had taken hold of me? The memories of that night? Determined to find answers, I delved deeper into my own psyche, confronting the fears that had plagued me for so long. I faced my insecurities, my regrets, and the traumas I had buried deep within. With each revelation, a weight seemed to lift from my shoulders, and the nightmares began to lose their grip. Armed with newfound self-awareness, I returned to the place where it all began, my old house. The memories of that fateful night were still vivid, but the fear that had once paralyzed me had diminished. As I stood before the door, the doorbell camera seemed to watch me, a silent witness to my struggles. With a deep breath, I pressed the button and waited. The camera flickered to life, but this time, there was no figure, no mask, and no haunting sign. Instead, I saw my own reflection staring back at me. The realization hit me like a wave. The figure had been a manifestation of my own fears, a projection of the darkness within me. It wasn't an external force tormenting me. It was my own mind, my own insecurities, that I had allowed to take control. As the days turned into weeks, I focused on healing, on rebuilding my sense of self and finding solace in the support of friends and loved ones. The nightmares gradually faded, replaced by dreams of hope and renewal. I learned that the power to conquer fear lay within me, that facing my inner demons was the key to breaking their hold. The masked figure, once a harbinger of terror, became a symbol of my own strength and resilience. Though the scars of that night remained, they no longer held me captive. I had emerged from the darkness, reborn with a newfound understanding of the complexities of fear and the strength that could be found in confronting it. Life moved forward, and as time passed, the memory of that horror began to fade. But I never forgot the lesson it had taught me, that the greatest battles we face are often within ourselves, and that true liberation comes from conquering the fears that hold us back.